A very good evening. How is first day at AWS going on? All good? If it's good, give a thumbs up. Oh, cool. Okay. I see a lot of thumbs up, so it might be going good. First of all, thank you so much for taking time to attend the session today. My name is Manny. I work at SentinelOne. I'm a field CISO at SentinelOne. As part of my role at SentinelOne, I drive thought leadership and competitive intelligence. I focus on cybersecurity incidents, as well as risk management and strategy. I also have Harvey with me. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Howie. I don't know if you can hear me. Is it coming through? Nope.
Maybe
I'm still green.
Do something
Yep.
like check,
There we go.
check.
Check.
Yeah.
Better? Okay. Everybody, I'm Howie. I'm a SE manager for cloud specifically at SentinelOne. Manage a team of SEs that specifically deal with cloud topics and containers and DevOps. Basically anything fun, my team works on it. So helping to, I guess, deliver the good word that, hey, SentinelOne works in cloud and how it works. So thanks for coming out.
All right. So let's look at the agenda for the session today. So we'll be broadly looking at AI in general and also look at it from a cybersecurity lens. And in between the slides, we would shuttle between how AI is used in technology and how cybersecurity is taking the lead. So we would be talking about different forms of AI, how it's being used by the offense and the defense. So in the conversation, whenever I talk about offense and defense, I'm talking about threat actors in terms of offense. And when I'm talking about defense, it's the blue team, how we are securing organizations from any kind of attacks. So yes, we'll talk about AI in general, and then the challenges we have with AI systems. And do keep in mind that this is an evolving field. So this is a point-in-time discussion. So after 3 months, they'll be a lot more different than what you're seeing right now. And perspectives from the offense side, as well as on the defense side, and the takeaways, summarizing everything that we discussed as part of the sessions. So looking at some data points from security industry, right? I promise you I'm not going to read the numbers here, but I'm going to talk about 3 insights that you can derive from these statistics that we have in the industry. First one is cybersecurity skills shortage. I'm sure you might have heard once in this year talking about skills shortage, and this is a consistent issue which is happening from many years in cybersecurity industry. And organizations are realizing how it's affecting their strategy in general. So there have been many initiatives taken by the organizations in terms of how to improve the current state in terms of skill shortage. But in this session, let's examine how we can answer skill shortage through the perspective of AI. The second one is security team burnout. As I didn't mention during my introduction, but before SentinelOne, I worked as a security leader for a renewable energy company, where I was leading security strategy, as well as security program and security operations. So as part of that, security burnout is real. You do have security teams which go through this. Reasons are many. One of the reasons is the team size is small, but the evolving threats are bigger, right? And also understanding what is needed within the team to answer the burnout issue. The third one is, again, when I was working in security operations, there was this issue of like having data in disparate sources, having to correlate the entire data. What is the data from my endpoint EDR? What is the data from my SIEM? And correlating all of that together to make sense and answer or do any kind of incident investigations. So lack of context in correlating the data between different sources, siloed approach, and decluttered data are the main challenges if you specifically look at security operations. Going by that, let's look at the past, the present, and the future. So when we are looking at the past, it was more castle and moat approach. You have something constant, you know your perimeter, you have your defenses across. And in the present, right now, we are seeing organizations going into that anticipation stage, where it's not a question of whether the cyber attack will happen or not. It's the question of when, and how do you reduce the risk of a cyber incident happening within your organization. Now let's look at the future. So we are looking at future where organizations need to be enabled with AI-powered technology, where you're handling AI-powered threats with AI technology, and how do you address already existing challenges that the organization already has. So moving into that phase, and understanding how you can build your own strategy and how AI can help will be discussed in the next few slides. So before talking about this slide, let me ask a question to the audience. How many of you heard AI this year? Okay, cool. Because I want to make sure that I'm not running through like AI in brief, but I'm also talking to an audience why this has been discussed a lot in the recent year. There have been many developments that happened in the AI industry, starting with ChatGPT last year. And before that, we also had different kind of AI, like machine learning industry, but not much talked about as you see in generative AI space. So based on that, because all of you heard about AI, I want to like clear some understanding about what are the different aspects of AI you have. So in simpler terms, AI is a machine which mimics human mind by using techniques, tools, or any kind of rules. Simpler definition. Now going into machine learning, so machine learning is the use of algorithms to put out some outcomes or outputs without any explicit instructions. Now moving into generative AI, it's basically creating new data, which is as similar as human created data. It could be text, it could be images, it could be music. And if you have been following the news, I think in the last not in the last couple of months, but in the last few months, you might have heard Heart of Sleeve, which was released by AI folks, which was not actually Drake or Weeknd singing it, but they just have released on platforms saying that it's Drake and Weeknd. They just cloned AI voices of both of them. I think it was taken down later. And coming to language learning models, this you might have heard already a lot of times, at least in the last few weeks for sure. So language learning models is basically generation of text. You give a question to the machine, it basically responds to you with a text. And the basic difference between all of these to establish which form of AI can help cybersecurity in which way. As I have said earlier, I've worked in cybersecurity strategy, and it's basically through this session we are telling the audience or telling you that how you can use AI to drive your cybersecurity strategy. Now that we have established what is AI, the different forms of artificial intelligence, and when people generally talk about artificial intelligence, there are nuances to that, whether it is machine learning, whether it is generative AI, or whether it is specific to LLM. Because when you know the difference, you know like which can be adapted to your processes, your technology that's already existing within your organization. Now, going into the general challenges of artificial intelligence. So the first point and the last point, talking about validity, reliability, and also talking about safety, privacy, bias, as well as ethical elements. So AI system has to be trustworthy. When I talk about an AI system being trustworthy, it has to be safe, reliable, valid, accountable, transparent, safe, free from bias, and interpretable. That's how I say it. So how does a trustworthiness of AI system can be made? So this is a definition from NIST risk management framework. And you would think that all of these characters should exist when you're talking about AI system. But in reality, meeting all of these characteristics is not possible. The reason is there should be a trade-off between one or the other characteristic when you're building an AI system. And we are talking about AI development, deployment, and use. So that is the reason why we have a major challenge with AI in meeting all of these characteristics. And you might have heard challenge with like the data is biased or the output is biased, or you might have also heard the output is not accurate because the characteristics are not being met by that particular AI system. And as I said, like it's hard to design an AI system with all the characteristics present. That's a major challenge with the artificial intelligence system. And second piece I would like to talk about is regulatory uncertainty. So as you know, like AI is evolving and there are many things coming up every day, every week. And it's, or I would say like governments are developing regulations across the world. Some of the ones that we commonly know as EU AI Regulatory Act. We also have Singapore. So all of them have come up with like framework, guidelines, and the way that AI should be used. But there is still uncertainty because of the way the technology AI is growing and how we can secure AI. And if you take Canada and other countries, they're going horizontal approach, which is basically you take an AI system and you say whether it's a high risk or a low risk, and then you design obligations around it, saying that this is how you meet the AI requirements through a regulatory perspective. But if you take US and UK, they're taking a vertical approach, which is basically looking at the AI system and seeing whether how it adapts to a particular industry. How does it adapt to a particular application? Then they're going to categorize into a high risk and low risk. And similarly, you can also check out Singapore's AI framework, which basically places you into like high risk or low risk based on the use and application. And yesterday, CISA and the government of UK have released a document which is guidelines for developing AI products. Do check it out when you have time. How AI products should be developed, how they should be implemented, so that the responsibilities are clear between the producer as well as the user. Now coming to resources. So the discussion of AI is incomplete without talking about resources needed for an AI system or AI technology to grow. The reason is, when you talk about AI, you talk about three things. First one, the data. The diverse data, the high quality data sets that are needed for the AI system to function. The second aspect that you're going to talk about an AI system is compute resources. The infrastructure that is needed behind the AI for it to run successfully and generate the outcomes as desired, right? Which costs a lot of money, which is a lot of infrastructure behind. So you have the data, you have the infrastructure, and then the third part is humans. Humans who are skilled at machine learning, deep learning, and understanding the algorithms, building algorithms to move it forward. So when you have these three aspects coming together, that's how you realize an AI system and its use. Now, accuracy, I have briefly mentioned in my discussion about characteristics of AI systems or the trustworthy of an AI system. Accuracy is producing an output which is reliable and precise when asked a question to the machine. So, as I said, there are different types of AI in terms of supervised learning, unsupervised learning. And based on the question that you ask, how well does the AI system output an answer? Does it fit to the question that you answer? Most of the times you might have used one of the GPTs in the market right now. Not always the output is what you wanted it to be or what it is supposed to be. For example, a fact, asking a question related to a fact, GPT might not output the correct answer. That's how you give feedback to the GPT and let it know, like, this is a wrong answer, you have to learn on it, and then you make the GPT or the particular AI system to learn to output the correct outcome. Now, the challenge with that is, how well is the data set behind it is accurate? Is it free from bias? Is it answering the right question? Is it giving you the right answer? I have talked about safety, privacy, and ethical elements as well. As I said, like the characteristics of a trustworthy AI system has to be analyzed based on the application. And as I said, all the characteristics cannot be met for a particular AI system. And that's a challenge with an AI system design and deployment. And let's move on to understand the different use of AI and ML in cybersecurity events. Now, we have learned what is an AI. We have machine learning, we have generative AI, we have LLMs. Then we talked about what are the challenges with the AI systems, like what can be done with the AI system, what is possible, what is not possible at this moment in time. Now, let's look at like the general use of AI and ML in cybersecurity events. And the slide that you're seeing right now is just to show you an insight into how it's being used from an offense side. This is not an exhaustive list. There might be many more which are being done right now in the market, in the industry, by the offense side. But this is to give you a more holistic view on what's happening with the AI systems. And most of these are focused on like LLMs, but AI in general as well. So let me talk about prompt injection attacks first. So prompt injection attacks are attacks on like AI systems to output unexpected behavior of the AI system. So this could be manipulation of inputs, and you basically let the AI system to give you a wrong output. So adversaries with malicious intention try to manipulate the data, and then they will output like the wrong data out of the AI system. One such example is tea poisoning. You can check it out when you do get time, which happened like few years back, where the bot was available on social media and adversaries or the people with malicious intent basically tried to give abusive words to the system, and then it threw abusive words back to the users. AI-powered business email campaigns, there is a high potential for malicious use. For example, in terms of phishing mail, right? So the common cues you have seen in the past are more to do with like spelling mistake, grammatical errors. And there were some kind of signs that I would recognize that this is a phishing email. Now what's happening with GPTs is that adversaries are using GPTs to write perfect emails so that it would not give you any signs of whether that's a phishing mail or not. So you might have a question saying that, well, if the adversaries is smart, why can't they write perfect phishing mail before as well, right? So I think the reality lies with the fact that using a GPT, you can write emails like these in a matter of seconds. And most importantly, what I understand by that is adapting to the context. So earlier, there might be a phishing mail which is not even related to your workplace, and that's how you might have recognized that that was a phishing mail. But now it's, let's say you had a barbecue party in your organization next Sunday, right? And you ask the GPT to write an email aligned to this context, so that's a perfect email that will target a person X in the organization. So that's how malicious use can be done. And it's also about the volume. Let's say they have targeted one person in the organization and send targeted emails, 1, 2, 3 persons, send number of emails, and that's how you increase the volume to put pressure on the end user. That's one thing where we're seeing the malicious use as well. Now, AI created malware. Black Mamba, it's a proof of concept of malware. Our Sentinel Labs team has written a great blog on it. Do check it out when you have time. It talks about how the malware, the polymorphic malware has been created using GPT. And we also recognize, SentinelOne Labs also recognized another AI-powered, it's called Predator AI, if I'm not wrong, attacking cloud applications. So that's another example of like how AI-powered or AI-created malware is attacking organizations. The next one is deepfakes. So this has been in constant use few years back as well in the recent times, how celebrities' faces were morphed and they were made to give some messages talking about political landscape or affecting geopolitical issues. So we would expect that it would be more in the coming years as well. If you're more interested in checking out like what are the recent instances where deepfakes have been used, there's one that happened in the last 1 month related to a celebrity in India. That's the recent one. And you can do check it out, OECD, AI monitoring of incidents. They do have a list of incidents which talk about all kind of AI incidents that are happening in the world. Now, data poisoning is basically poisoning the data to give out malicious outputs. And that's the issue that we're seeing that because let's say you have a large data set and you poison the data set with wrong data or with the data which is not appropriate. It basically spits out the data which is not relevant to you, which is not relevant to any of your business process. And what happens with that is there is a chain process that's being initiated. Let's say you have an AI application being used in your business process, and the output from that particular system is being used by other applications, and that's propagated into your business process or business output. That's how it affects the systems. Now, till now what we have looked at is like how is AI affecting cybersecurity in general. As I said at the start of the presentation, we will be shuttling between AI in general as well as looking at it from a cybersecurity lens. So in general, understanding how AI is being used in the cloud. So first, building better. I think one such example is AWS SageMaker, where it's helping developers to build and train better. That's one of the examples. And then automating everything. So understanding resource scaling, and as well as understanding the scaling resources that, scaling so that your performance is not being compromised, understanding that aspect and using that in your business processes. Secure more, so more relevant to security processes. When AI is used in the systems, we are seeing a lot of applications around threat detection, anomaly detection, and understanding the patterns within the cloud where the resources are being used, which is not normal for a particular organization. And analyzing everything. So anything to do with like sentiment analysis or analyzing data so that you can get some business insights, not just from cybersecurity perspective, but identifying some patterns and making that insights useful for you to make any kind of decisions related to your business. And end user experience. So this is basically AI assistance giving to the end users, whether it is chatting with the end users, improving their experiences, or you as organization getting insights from the end users' use of AI assistance to design your business processes better, as well as improve your decision making. Now that we have understood how AI is being used in cloud in general, let's look at like how AI can affect cloud in general. So the typical ransomware incident. So whenever a threat actor wants to attack on an organization, they'll try to make an entry, and then they will try to do a lateral movement. And the third step is basically encryption or data exfiltration. So that's the typical way the ransomware propagates in an organization. There might be flavors and nuances as to how they approached that particular incident, whether they exploited the cloud vulnerabilities, or whether they came through social engineering, or whether they are using any kind of vulnerability that's available in the market or industry that the organization did not patch. So many ways of coming into the organization. And then when ransomware hits the organization, it's a matter of seconds where it spreads into the cloud and they encrypt and exfiltrate. And particularly in cloud, once they're in the environment, they try to attack the data within the cloud. It could be cloud storage, and then use APIs to propagate further and encrypt and exfiltrate. We will be running through an example through Howie. Sorry making you stand, but yeah, go ahead, Howie.
All right, so yeah, we got one example of a ransomware. This was actually discovered and analyzed by SentinelOne's Sentinel Labs team. But it goes through the typical attack chains, like Manny was explaining here. So the setup here, just to kind of give you a lay of the land. On the right-hand side of the slide, this is the target environment that the attacker was going after. And then on the left-hand side, this is generally the public internet, and the attacker is coming across the public internet, so highlighted in yellow here. So the attack, the thing that looks like a supersonic football here, sort of, the attack comes from there, so it was taking advantage of a vulnerability and I'll say a prevalent file sharing software. Won't name names, won't throw mud at anybody. But basically took advantage of something that was known vulnerable. Researched a public exploit and started exploiting. So this gave them the ability to execute commands, arbitrary commands. The first of which was actually just to establish persistence. So they used a common living off the land attack, which is just to use bash. It's on almost every system, almost every Linux system out there, and did a reverse TCP. So this is built into the stack, the TCP stack of every Linux system. So we're able to have a shell back to the calling server back on 8081. And then from there, after they had the sort of remote hands-on keyboard, they actually issued the commands to, one, remove any previous existence of the iFire, so it's IceFire ransomware. So that's abbreviated iFire. But first they would remove that binary if it existed. Then they would go and refresh the environment by grabbing a script called demo, and then also downloading a new version of the iFire. So the theory behind this was that even the attackers, they're iterating, they're getting better, trying to become, I guess, more efficient every time they run this attack. They also want to keep track of each of their campaigns. So they may be injecting a unique identifier into the binaries. Just, again, kind of keep them unique, tell them apart so that they can monetize appropriately. So they download the iFire, and lastly, just make the script file that does all the work, make it executable, and then run the script. So it leverages the iFire binary to do all the encryption. Then they, of course, spring the typical README pages that you go and then solicit payment from your victim. Now, getting to the defensive side of this. So this is a snippet, and this is probably way too small to read, actually, but this is from the SentinelOne console. So just one implementation of multiple types of AI for defenses, one of which is behavioral AI. So here in this depiction, just talking about the bubbles in the lower screen there, we're tracking processes, and then we use AI to put all those processes together in a logical sequence, and then we measure each one of them for the presence of any atomic behaviors. So if you think of MITRE ATT&CK, if you're familiar with the MITRE ATT&CK framework, we're looking for those atomic behaviors, stitching them together, and if we see enough of them that surpasses a threshold, we can dub it as alert-worthy at a certain level, either a suspicious level or a malicious level. There's other levels of AI too that we use for different purposes. So, for example, the iFire binary in this case, it would have varying aspects of the file that we would extract, look at the attributes in the context of that file, compare it against a machine learning model that's been pre-trained. So again, the labs teams, they take a set of known bads, a set of known goods, they mix the two together and try to find this finite dividing line that's predictable, it's reliable. And one of the things you endeavor to produce with your AI technology. So detects the probability that a file is malicious versus not, versus benign. And then again, if it's malicious, at what level? Is it alert worthy, or should I go ahead and quarantine this file? So just examples of how you can use the AI to detect malicious behavior, malicious files, and then also getting to generative AI a bit, the analysis piece of it. So because there's so many operators, security analysts that are underwater, they can't keep up with all of the alerts that are in their consoles on a daily basis. We're trying to make life a little bit simpler. They can take information from multiple different sources, not just a SentinelOne source, but multiple different sources, make sense of it all across a common schema. So there's a OCSF format that AWS uses. Some of you might be familiar. But if you're in the common schema, it's pretty easy to develop these queries to work across the entire data lake so that you can make sense of it all faster. And then once you have that picture, that basic, is this bad, is this good? If it's bad, write me a report, please. A lot of customers struggle with writing those reports. This generative AI can do it for you. They can even take this bubble chart over here, that's just really a bunch of processes with command lines and PID, IDs, et cetera. They can actually make sense of that and give it to you in plain English in a couple of paragraphs. So it's a lot simpler. Which would you rather read? Somebody telling you the story, or do you want to go do the analysis? So it's sort of a use case of how it's used in practice. So once you discover, it's not just for ransomware specifically, right? For IceFire, IceFire can do its damage in a matter of seconds, and this entire system is pretty much toast. So in order to be able to be effective, you want to be able to use AI not only to discover, but also to prevent. So it's, again, accuracy matters. You don't want to falsely convict processes that run the business, right? There's no better way to generate a resume producing event than to quarantine the wrong things consistently. So it's important to be accurate. So just showing here that whenever you see, again, it's an eye chart a bit. On the right-hand side, it sort of highlights the behaviors of the reverse shell in this case, that's really keying in on the interaction of a network socket being redirected to a bash or a shell process. It's atypical, not always malicious, but when seen with the right combination of other atomic indicators, that does make it a higher confidence. Thus, at that point, you can slam the door shut on that particular threat. So here we're just showing that we do mitigate the threat, and then in the SSH box here for the Amazon Linux 2023, just showing that it severs the SSH connection that I had established to this victim Amazon Linux 2023 instance. So again, it sort of takes the carpet out from under the attacker, makes them at least try to reinvent a new tactic, which is much tougher than just changing a couple characters. That's relatively easy to do with machine learning, AI, that can rewrite your Python code for you in a matter of seconds. All right, so I'll turn back over to
Sure.
Mandy.
So now the next phase of the presentation is basically talking about AI use and AI potential for cybersecurity in general, and how organizations should use it to make it to maximize the use of AI within the organization. So particularly talking about human and machine capabilities, the human and machine teaming capabilities. So machines can go through petabytes of data and then ran through insights through it. And as humans, trying to design the strategy around it, where in my process would the AI tool or the system would make more sense to improve my productivity and also decrease the inefficiencies. So that's the key point of having this human and machine capabilities and teaming together. And as discussed before as well, having that intuition and good judgment, not trying to magically spun up an AI tool and trying to think that it's going to solve all my business problems or all my cybersecurity problems, but understanding as humans, where can I place the AI system to maximize the productivity and decrease the efficiencies. And humans have this good judgment, provide input, provide value in terms of designing that through their process. Because every organization, when you look at cybersecurity holistically, your process, people, technology are different. And there is no one-size-fits-all approach to you. So understanding those human and machine capabilities together, having that teaming together, can give you more benefits than before as well. Now, looking at some of the areas where cybersecurity can be useful in terms of simplified triage, right? Understanding and reducing your signal-to-noise ratio. Understanding you have end-to-end tools together so that you reduce what are the noise that's happening in the environment. And also, for example, our cloud workload protection engine that we have through SentinelOne uses 5 AI engines, including static, cloud intelligence AI engine, star rules, and as I think few others might have missed out of the 5, but uses that to detect and respond to the security incidents within the cloud. So understanding that part where you can enable AI tools within your environment to get the maximum benefits is key. And threat intelligence, again, there is a high potential for AI to be used in this particular field. The reason is, when you look at threat intelligence, there are different levels of threat intelligence that you usually give to security teams, starting with tactical threat intelligence, operational threat intelligence, and strategic threat intelligence. All the audience for the 3 types of threat intelligence are different. One starting with an analyst level, then going into your SOC teams, and then going into executive level. And each of these threat intelligence talk about different aspects, such as strategic threat intelligence focuses on geopolitical issues, where your CISOs and board of directors can make sense of the threat intelligence and make decisions in terms of business strategy as well as securing your infrastructure. The reason why AI can make change in this particular field is that most of the times the threat intelligence is not timely. And when it's not timely, even when you get the data, it's not useful to you to make any kind of decisions. So as said before, AI can go through petabytes of data and give insights. So that's where the real potential lies and where security teams can really use it. And now talking about integrated response. So if you ask any security team or SOC operations team, the first thing that comes into their mind with regards to metrics is reducing mean time to detect. and reduce, mean time to respond is basically increasing that. The reason is you have data spread about different sources in the organization and making sense of that data together so that you reduce the mean time to respond, right? And when that happens, you are in an ideal state where you're able to make sense of all the data within the organization and respond to the threats. And recently, SentinelOne launched about Purple AI, which is a generative AI assistant helping the security teams. Basically asking a question like, what are the threats in my environment? And then it spits out the list of threats within the environment, also providing a threat summary report. And we also have our star patented technology, which basically pulls out data from your endpoint, cloud, and identity, make that correlation, help you in the incident investigations. So threat attribution is one aspect to it, so that understanding when did the incident happen, how did the incident investigation is happening, and how do you correlate the data from your endpoint, identity, and cloud, whichever the ecosystem that you are in. And lastly, increasing your staff productivity. As at the start of the session, I was talking about skill shortage and burnout. So addressing these issues, what are the routine tasks that can be automated? What are the tasks that can be done by the machines? And what are the areas our security teams can actually focus? Are we making our security teams to go through the admin tasks instead of focusing on threat investigations? That's a key question that the security operation manager or the security operation management have to think about. So understanding where the tool fits in your strategy is also key. Now, looking about how AI can help security operations, I'm going to talk about 3 things here. The first one is, let's say you have a backlog of threat incident investigations in your organization, and you have a backlog and you do not have any expertise or time to do that. That's the second part of it. So when you don't have that, why the use of AI machine or a generative AI tool can help you going through that threat backlog and also giving you the time and the expertise for your security teams to go through that threat backlog as well as help you in incident investigations. The last one that I want to talk about is a unified console. And if you have worked in security operations, you would agree with me in terms of how many consoles the security operations teams have to go through. Pulling data from your SIEM, pulling data from your EDR, pulling data from another source or cloud, and then trying to make sense of the data altogether. And if an intruder has already given us signs of an attack, how do you correlate all the data together so that you can respond faster or respond in real time to help you with the incident investigations? So these are the 3 areas that could tremendously help security teams in terms of improving their productivity as well as removing the inefficiencies. Now, this is my last slide, and this is basically summarizing the key takeaways for the session today. Starting with immense potential for security events, as we have seen in my earlier slides as well. There is high potential for adversaries using these AI machines or AI systems to launch attacks on organizations. First, it might be business compromise email through AI or AI-powered malware. Or on the offense side, adversaries have also came up with something called Warm GPT. Do check it out when you have time. Fraud GPT is another one. It's a mechanism for cyber attackers to streamline their attacks on organizations. So those are some of the things. They're coming up with their own sense in terms of attacking the organizations. And then significantly enhancing cybersecurity. As I said before, and as I'm saying now as well, approaching your cybersecurity holistically, people, process, technology, and understanding where the tools can give you maximum benefits, as well as understanding that where the process can be automated, where the tasks can be automated by AI system, or where the process can be improved is something as security practitioners can provide value to the organization. And as I said, AI is here, and we are going to use AI in every sense possible in business going forward as well. So we would have to look at like how AI should be part of your cybersecurity strategy, how it's holistically helping you, as well as enabling you in terms of defense for your organizations. And the third one, humans and AI teaming, as I specifically mentioned about. As security practitioners, you need to provide value in terms of like where the system will give you enough benefits, and automatically a tool is not going to solve all your business problems, all your security problems. As security practitioners, you would have to delve deeper into understanding what are the areas that are being covered by particular tools. Where do I have an overlap? Do I have a unified view of data that's present in my environment? And we are seeing a trend. So this is going to happen in phases as cloud adoption has happened in phases in the previous years that you have seen. And continually advanced defensive AI. So AI would be part of all of your business processes going forward. And there would be a sense of AI system use in one way or the other, whether it is machine learning, whether it is generative AI. Having that security built around, at least thinking about how to build that security around can help drastically the security teams. The reason why I'm emphasizing on this is most of the times security is an afterthought. After we have used the application, we think about security, which might not be the better way going forward. That's the point I want to emphasize. And collaboration is vital. Collaboration in two perspectives. One, with the business, understanding what the business is using and how security is enabling the business. Collaboration in the second perspective is how can the systems and people as well as processes come together to give that holistic view for your organization's cybersecurity strategy. Most of the times we think that a tool or like a process can help you, but we also miss that people need to be enabled with proper training as well in terms of the latest attacks. How do you identify an AI-focused phishing email into your organization? Are your people enabled? Are your people trained on these? So making all of these together and understanding holistically. And lastly, a couple of thoughts. If you are interested in checking out our Purple AI tool, which is a generative AI tool, specifically helping our security teams in terms of understanding the threats in the environment and how they would investigate the threats in the environment, do check it out. The second one is our cloud workload engine, which is basically based on AI 5 engines, how we detect and respond to threats better in a more effective way. You can do check it out as well. And yeah, that's the last part of it. And thank you so much for your time. If you do have questions, we are right here. You can come and ask questions and discuss. Thank you so much.